There has to be something about the story that resonates with almost everyone. There has to be something about the story that's meaningful to a person born 1,000 years ago in an igloo on the Arctic Circle, and is meaningful to somebody in Botswana as it is to somebody born here in Hanover, Massachusetts. What is the truth that we hear in the story? First, I suspect that it's something to do with hopelessness. Hopelessness is something with which every human can identify. In this Bible passage, the Israelites are in a completely hopeless situation. They've been pushed to the edge of the sea. They have the Egyptian army behind them. So they have two choices: die by drowning or die at the hands of the Egyptians. It's hopeless. There's no way they can swim across the Red Sea, and the Egyptians have good reason to be chasing them down. Not only were their firstborn sons all killed, but they've had a rash of plagues and rather nasty happenings. There's no way out. They'll all soon be dead. And there is, pure and simple, no way around that fact. Now I remember back in my college days, my first time through, I was taking organic chemistry. And I was just not getting it. I had to work really hard to make any sense out of the science once we started studying patterns of movement. Actually, I still break out in a sweat and get anxious every time I see an organic chemistry book. And I remember a Thursday evening, a test with Dr. Bobbitt. I thought I was in pretty good shape, except for the Zwitter ions. And what do you think 50% of the test was? Zwitter ions. And I sat there looking down in that paper. I might as well have been a chimpanzee staring at a full page of Greek and Latin. It just wasn't coming to me. I can still remember that feeling. I was trapped. I wanted to run, but you really can't do that. I wanted to hide, but I was in plain sight, sitting right in front of Professor Bobbitt. It was too late. The boat had left the shore and sailed off. Game, set, match, I was done. I think that part of being a human being understands that feeling that I just described. We all face it. Sometimes it's something relatively insignificant. Like when we look at the clock running down at some sporting event and realize our team doesn't have a chance to make a comeback. Sometimes it's a little more important. Like when we face our own mortality. That's what happened to the Israelites. They saw the Red Sea on one side, the Egyptians on the other, and they envisioned a bright light flashing across the sky saying, "Game's over." I think that it might be why this story has such staying power. We know that game over feeling all too well. But then the story takes an unexpected turn. Moses says to the Israelites, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm. The Lord will fight for you. And you only have to keep still." So the story is about more than just hopelessness. It's about faith. Because even as the game over sign is flashing across the Hebrew imagination, they're told to remain faithful. I'd like you to take a moment to put yourself in the shoes or the sandals of the Israelites on that shore. There's no way out. God will get you out. There's nothing but death anyway we turn. God will preserve you. The situation is absolutely impossible. With God, all things are possible. Faith in God makes all things possible. Now, I don't think this story would have survived had the Egyptians slain all the Hebrews that morning at the Red Sea. Because stories about hopelessness may resonate with us, but they aren't things that we really carry forward from generation to generation. But stories about faith, now that's a different matter. Everybody needs faith. Everybody wants to have faith. And as part of our human condition, we often wonder if our faith is in vain. I mean, we pray and pray with all the faith we can muster, and things still don't turn out the way we want them to. Our loved one still passes beyond our reach. All too often, in spite of our faith, still seem to be coming out on top, while loving and caring people keep getting stepped on. What is faith? How can we be expected to maintain our faith when it so often seems misguided and misplaced? There's a third element in the story that makes it whole, that brings it to complete, that completes the picture. It's not just a story about hopelessness, and it's not just a story about faith. It's also a story about deliverance to freedom. Deliverance to freedom. This story takes us from faith to freedom. And that's why I think this story has survived. Not because it's provided a fairy tale happy ending to a hopeless story, but because it speaks a truth that we know in our heart of hearts is real and undeniable. There is no obstacle that we cannot overcome without the help of God. No matter how hopeless, no matter how dreadful, no matter how painful the situation, in the end, good conquers evil. In the end, God has the last word. In the end, for every insurmountable wall we reach in our life, for every Red Sea that life puts in our path, for every Egyptian that threatens us with destruction, we will overcome these obstacles, no matter how impossible the situation seems, no matter how devastating the odds. This little story about the parting of the Red Sea is a microcosm of human life. Life is certainly strange, and it's often difficult to tell the good guys from the bad guys. We often find ourselves in hopeless situations, but we always can find a way out with the help of God. I survived organic chemistry. Oh yes, I did in fact flunk that test, but it taught me a few lessons, and it actually even fit kind of nicely into the sermon today, even though it happened 30 years, well, more than 30 years ago. Things just have a way of working out. And there's been more than one time in my life since that day in college when I found myself in situations that made the chemistry test seem pretty insignificant. I have a pretty good sense of what those Israelites were feeling that morning in Egypt, as I imagine most of you do as well. And my only advice is this: if you ever find yourself with the Red Sea in front of you and the Egyptian army behind you, please don't lose your faith. Because as impossible as it seems, the Red Sea can part and you can walk right through the middle of it to your own freedom. Amen. Will you pray with me? Gracious and loving God, we come to you today, on this day, as part of your creation story, as part of your history. We come to you broken, in pain, disillusioned, lost. We hear that faith in you, our faith in you, will see us through the difficulties and the trials we have. Our faith in you will deliver us to freedom. Amen.